The Virtual Pullman Civic Theater is pleased to present the second production created by Orson Welles and the Mercury Theater on the air. It was the first time in its history that radio brought to the country an entire theatrical institution. Tonight, the stars of Virtual PCT are proud to bring to the air those same qualities of vitality and imagination that made Welles and his troupe the most talked about in American radio history.
This is Orson Welles speaking. If there's anything bloodthirstier than a werewolf, it's a pirate, and the Mercury Theater is playing safe. Now, if vampires and their ilk leave you as uncannily cold as old Dracula himself, who was staked down firmly and, it is to be hoped, permanently in his own family plot last October, then there are figures to prove that you are susceptible to buried treasure. We calculate that no decent, law-abiding citizen is immune to pirates. There are cowboys and Indians, there are gangsters and G-men, but these delights are inconstant, like the short skirt. I don't care how young you are, nothing charms, nothing ingratiates, nothing wins like a one-legged, double-barreled buccaneer with earrings, a handkerchief on his head, and a knife in his teeth. What could be more appropriate on the starboard rail of your four-masted brigantine? If you haven't a four-masted brigantine, you have Treasure Island. It's in your library because it's a great English classic. And this evening, because it's a great story, it's on your radio. That's what I mean by playing safe. Once there was a small boy who asked his stepfather, who had written a number of books, please to write something interesting. The stepfather, seeing his point immediately, contributed to a serial something repugnant called Young Folks, a periodical circulated among that section of the English nation known as Tiny Tots, who were very prevalent in the 1880s. The name of the serial was The Sea Cook by Captain George North, and if the Tiny Tots didn't think it was interesting, they should have been boiled in oil. The story begun, the stepfather says, on a chill September morning by the cheek of a brisk fire and the rain drumming on the window. The small boy himself helped a lot, even though Captain North got the credit, and so did a third and equally incurable small boy, the author's father. They drew a map first, a chart of an island showing very queer and wonderful attractions, Spyglass Shoulder, for instance, and Skeleton Island, and the North Cache with the bar silver. And then, on that chill September morning, by that brisk fire of theirs, the three plotters buried their plunder. Doubloons, gold, silver, rich jewels, and pieces of 8. That's why the story was finally called Treasure Island. It's foolish to guess who's tuned in on this broadcast, but if in some way, well, we who are retelling this story hope devoutly that he, who the Samoans laid to rest in the hills of their own faraway Treasure Island, and who is still known out there only as the Great Teller of Tales, would not wish tonight, as he did so unaccountably at first, to suppress the real name of Captain George North. The small boy, of course, should have been decorated. It's a better world because he asked for something interesting. But then, he was lucky. There are millions and millions of small boys, but only one of us had Robert Louis Stevenson for a stepfather.
Treasure Island by Robert Louis Stevenson, with Orson Welles as Long John Silver and as Jim Hawkins, who tell the story Treasure Island.
Squire Trelawney, Dr. Livesey, and the rest of the gentlemen, having asked me to write down the whole particulars about Treasure Island, from beginning to the end, keeping nothing back but the bearings of the island, and that only because there is treasure not yet lifted. I take up my pen in the year of grace, 1783, and go back to that time 19 years ago, when my father kept the Admiral Benbow Inn, and the brown old seaman with the saber cut first took up his lodging under our roof. I was 14, but I remember him as if it were yesterday.
15 men on a dead man's chest. Yo-ho-ho and a bottle
Jim!
of rum.
Mother called me from upstairs.
Jim!
Yes, Mother?
Jim, there's a man coming up the road. Go out and see what he wants.
Drink and the devil have done for the rest. Yo-ho-ho and a
He
bottle
came
of
plodding
rum.
to the inn door, his sea chest following behind him on a hand barrow. A tall, strong, heavy, nut-brown man, his terry pigtail falling over the shoulders of his soiled blue coat, his hands ragged and scarred, with black, broken nails, and the saber cut across one cheek, a dirty, livid white, singing that old sea song that he sang so often afterwards.
Yo-ho-ho and a bottle of rum. Yo, open up in there. Now then, boy,
Yes, sir.
what do you call this place?
The Admiral Benbow Inn, sir.
Admiral Benbow, eh? Nice, lonely-looking, pleasant-situated grog shop. Folks don't come here much, do they, boy? Not much company?
No, sir. More's the pity.
No? Well, then it's the berth for me. I'm a plain man. Rum and bacon, eggs is all I want, and that Ed up there to watch for ships off. I've a mind to stay here a bit. Here, you, Beatty. You with the wheelbarrow. Bring up alongside, help up my chest. You too, boy, it's heavy.
Yes, sir.
Call me Captain, boy, Captain.
Yes, Captain.
Just one more thing.
Yes, Captain.
You ain't seen him, have you?
No, sir. Who do you mean?
Along the road, maybe? You might have seen him somewheres. You can't tell. Let me know if you do, boy, a seafaring man.
Yes, sir.
With one leg.
Yes, sir.
Captain!
Yes, Captain.
Bring me a noggin of rum, boy.
And so he came to live under our roof. We never knew his name. We called him the Captain. He was a very silent man by custom. All day he hung around the cove or up on the cliffs with the brass telescope, staring out to sea. All evening he sat in a corner of the parlor next to the fire and drank rum and water, very strong. And every day, when he came back from his stroll, he would ask the same question.
Jim?
Yes, Captain?
Any seafaring men go by today along the road?
No, Captain.
And Jim?
Yes, sir?
You're a good boy, Jim. You wouldn't lie to me ever, would you, Jim?
No, sir.
You haven't seen him, have you, Jim? Jim, there's a silver fourpenny for you, first of every month, if you'll keep your weather eye open for a seafaring man with one leg. Let me know the moment you see him, won't you, Jim? A seafaring man with one leg.
How that personage haunted my dreams on stormy nights when the wind shook the four corners of the house and the surf roared along the cove and up the cliffs. I could see him in 1,000 forms. Now the leg would be cut off at the knee, and now at the hip, Now he was a monstrous kind of creature who had never had but one leg, and that in the middle of his body.
You'll keep your weather eye open for him, won't you, Jim? For a seafaring man with one leg.
Months went by. The captain bade fair to ruin us, for he kept on staying week after week, month after month.
And never a penny of money, Jim. Not a penny has he paid us since the day he came here. And me, a poor widow woman.
Mother, why don't you ask him for some?
Well, I'll tell you the truth, Jim. I'm afraid to ask him. I'm afraid of that man. Now, if your father was alive...
In all that time, none of us ever saw him open the great sea chest that was in his room. There were nights when he took a deal more rum and water than his head could carry.
15 men on that man's chest. Yo-ho-ho, and a bottle of rum.
Often I have heard the house shaking and all the neighbors joining in for dear life.
15 men on the dead man's chest. Yo-ho-ho, and a bottle of rum. Quiet in midships. Quiet!
He would force them all to listen to his stories. Dreadful stories they were, about hanging and walking the plank and storms at sea and the dry Tortugas and wild deeds in places on the Spanish Main. By his own account, he must have lived his life among some of the wickedest men that God ever allowed upon the sea. The captain had been living with us almost a year when there occurred the first of the mysterious events that rid us at last of his presence. It was one January morning, very early, a pinching, frosty morning. The captain had risen earlier than usual and set down the beach with his telescope under his arm. My mother was upstairs, and I was laying the breakfast table against the captain's return when the parlor door opened and a stranger stepped in.
Sonny, come here, Sonny. Is this table for my mate Bill?
I don't know your mate, Bill. I'm laying this for the man who stays in the house. We call him the captain.
Well, my mate Bill, you'd be called the captain, like as not. Now, we'll put it for argument's like that your captain's got a cut on one cheek. And we'll put it, if you like, that cheek's the right one, eh? But of course, save me, there he is now. There's my mate Bill. That's him, with the spyglass under his arm. Bless his old heart to be sure. You and me, we'll get back behind that door, Sonny, and we'll give Bill a little surprise. We will, bless his heart, I says again.
15 men on the dead man's chest. Yo-ho-ho.
Hello, Bill. Come, Bill, you knows me. You knows an old shipmate, Bill, surely.
Black dog.
Black dog as ever was. Hey, Bill. Bill, we've seen sight old times, us two.
So you've run me down. Here I am. Well, speak up. What is it?
That's you, Bill. You're right of it. Billy, I'll have a glass old rum from this dear child here, what I've took such a liking to, and we'll sit down, if you please, and talk square, like old shipmates. Sit down, Bill. And you, Sonny, get aft.
Yes, sir.
And none of your keyholes on me, do you hear?
For a while, I could hear nothing but a low gabbing. Suddenly, the voices began to grow higher.
No, and an end of it. If it comes to swinging, swing all, say I.
saw Black Dog, streaming blood, run off down the road. Presently, the captain returned, alone.
Jim? Jim? Give me some rum.
Captain, are you hurt?
I must get away from here. Get away, that's what. I must get away from here.
What's happened, Jim? What's happened?
It's the captain, Mother.
The captain? Oh dear. Dearie me. What a disgrace. I've been afraid of something like this ever since he came into our house with that old chest of his.
I got the rum and tried to put it down his throat, but his teeth were tightly shut and his jaws were as strong as iron. An hour later, our friend Dr. Livesey came.
Doctor, what shall we do?
Where's he wounded, Doctor?
Wounded? Fiddlestick's end. No more wounded than you or I. The man's had a stroke.
Where's Black Dog?
Black Dog? There's no black dog except the one you have on your own back. You've been drinking rum, man, and you've had a stroke. Now listen to me. 1 glass of rum a day won't kill you. But if you take one and you take another, and then you'll die. Die and go to your own place, like the man in the Bible. And the world will be rid of a very dirty scoundrel. Do you hear that? The name of rum for you is death.
About noon the next day, I stopped at the captain's door with some medicines.
Who is it?
It's me, Jim.
Come in, Jim. Come in.
He was lying very much as we had left him.
Jim, you're the only one here that's worth anything. You know I've always been good to you. Never a month, but I've given you a silver fourpenny for yourself. Now you see, mate, I'm pretty low and deserted by all. You'll bring me a noggin of rum, won't you, matey?
But the doctor said...
Doctors is all swabs. If I don't have a drain of rum, Jim, I'll have the R's. I seen some of them already. Seen old Flint in the corner there behind you. Plain as print, I seen him, Jim. I'll give you a golden guinea for a noggin.
When I brought it to him, he seized it greedily and drank it out.
That's some better, sure enough. Now, matey, did that doctor say how long I was lie here in this old berth?
Why, a week at least.
Thunder, a week. I can't do that. They'd have the black spot on me by then. The lubbers is going about getting the wind of me this blessed moment. Lubbers is can't keep what they got and want to nail what's another's. It's in me old sea chest, Jim, the thing they're after. They'll tip me the back spot, I know it. I was first mate, I was. Old Flint's first mate. And I'm the only one who knows the place he buried it. He gave it me at Savannah when he lay a-dying.
What's the black spot, Captain?
A summons from old Flint's crew, a summons. And them that gets it, Jim, is lucky when they're dead.
So, a week went by, and then, about 3 o'clock of a bitter, foggy, frosty afternoon, I saw someone drawing slowly near, along the road. He was plainly blind, for he tapped before him with a stick, and he wore a green shade over his eyes and nose, and he was hunched as if with age or weakness, and he wore a huge old tattered sea cloak with a hood.
Kind Christian friends, take pity on a poor blind mariner who has lost the precious sight of his eyes and the gracious defence of his native country, England. And God bless King George, where or in what part of this country he may now be.
You are at the Admiral Benbow Inn, sailor.
Eh?
Black Hill Cove.
I hear a voice. A young voice. It's here where I miss me deadlights. Will you give me your hand, my kind young friend, and lead me into the captain?
I held out my hand, and the horrible, soft-spoken, eyeless creature gripped it in a moment like a vice.
Now, boy, take me in to the captain.
Sir, upon my word, I dare not.
You heard me. Take me in straight. Will ye take me into the captain?
Yes, sir.
Good. And when I'm in view, say to him, here's a friend for you, Bill Bones. If you don't, I'll twist your arm right out of your body. Do you hear?
Yes, sir, I...
Stash your patter, damn you. Now forward march.
Here's a friend for you, Bill Bones.
Now, Bill, sit where you are. Business is business. Hold out your left hand, Bill. Boy, take his left hand by the wrist and bring it near to my right. Here's a little bit of paper for you, Bill Bones. Now that's done. I'll be going. Goodbye, Bill. Goodbye.
Jim?
Yes, Captain.
What time is it, Jim?
10 o'clock.
10 o'clock? 10 o'clock, 6 hours. We'll dead 'em all yet. Pew and Black Dog and Long John Silver, the whole crew of 'em will...
Captain? Captain! Captain! Captain!
The captain was dead. And there we were, my mother and I, a woman and a boy of 14, alone at night in the house with the dead captain's body on the parlor floor.
He owes us money, he does. A whole year, never a penny from him. And me, a poor widow.
But, Mother, if Black Dog comes back, or the blind man...
Oh, Black Dog fiddlesticks. There's something in that old chest of his upstairs that's rightfully mine. And we'll have that chest open if we die for it.
Mother?
Close the blinds, Jim. We don't want anybody watching us from the outside. We have to get the key off him.
Look, Mother! Look!
On the floor, close to the dead man's hand, there was a little round of paper, blackened on one side.
The black spot!
I took it up and found that...
You have till 10 tonight. 4 hours.
Now, Jim, find that key.
I felt in his pockets, one after another.
Perhaps it's round his neck. Tear open his shirt.
There, sure enough, hanging on a bit of terry string, we found the key. Then my mother got a candle in the bar, and holding each other's hands, we went upstairs to his room.
Give me the key, Jim. Now then. Nothing's in here. Not a thing of value, not a penny.
Mother, look!
There, before us, lay the last things in the chest. A bundle, tied up in oilcloth, looking like papers, and a canvas bag that gave forth at the touch the jingle of gold.
Do you see, Jim? I knew we'd find it, but I'll show those rogues that I'm an honest woman. I'll have my due and not a farthing over. Here, Jim, hold this bag.
The coins were of all countries and sizes, doubloons and louis d'or and guineas and pieces of 8.
Mother!
What is it, Jim?
Mother, listen! Come, Mother. Mother, take the whole and let's be gone.
No, I'll have my due, Jim, and no more.
But Mother, you heard him. That was the blind man.
I know what I'm doing. I know my rights.
But Mother, you don't know.
Oh dear. I'll take what I have.
And I'll take this. These papers. Quick, Mother, quick! Take my hand.
Next moment, we had opened the door and were in full retreat toward the village.
Look, Jim. Over the hill. There they come.
Run, Mother! Mother, run!
Oh, Jim. Jim, I'm going to faint. Oh, Jim. Take the money and go on.
Mother!
She had fainted. I managed somehow to drag her down the bank into the shadow of the ditch. A moment later, the house was surrounded.
Bones! Bones! Bill Bones, will ye answer me? Down with the door then! In ye lubbers, loot the house and find it!
Bill's dead.
Hey, Pew! Bill's dead.
Search him, ye shirkin lubbers, and the rest of ye, aloft and get the chest!
It was a good thing my mother had fainted, or she would have had to watch with me while our poor house was pulled apart and smashed. Whatever it was they were after, they did not find it.
Well, is it there?
The money's there.
What is it, Jim? What are they after?
The map, Mother. Flint's map.
Hey, Pew, that's the signal.
Scatter me, lads.
Hold on, ye sneaks. It's in the house, ye know it is. Shiver me soul if I had me eyes.
That's the signal, Pew. The signal.
Ye dogs, ye had your hands on hundreds, on thousands. Are ye giving up now? Ye'd be as rich as kings if ye could find it. Ye know it's there, and ye stand there skulking. There wasn't one of ye dared face Bill, and I did it, a blind man, and I'm to lose me chance for you. I'm to be a poor crawling beggar sponging for rum when I might be rolling in a coach. If ye had the pluck of a weevil and a sea biscuit among the lot of ye.
That's the last signal.
Get out. Scatter me, lads.
Dirk! Dirk! Black Dog! Johnny! Dirk! Ye won't leave old Pew, mates, not old Pew. Johnny! Black Dog! Don't leave old Pew! Don't... Ah!
When they picked him up where he lay on the road on his side, Pew was stone dead. The horsemen, as it turned out, were revenue officers with some news of a strange lugger in Kit's Hole, and they set forth that night in our direction. They took my mother to a neighbor's house.
Well, Hawkins, they got the money, you say. Well, what in fortune were they after? More money, I suppose?
No, Sergeant, not money. I think In fact, sir, I believe I have the thing in my breast pocket. And to tell you the truth, I should like to put it in safety.
Oh, to be sure, boy. Quite right. I'll take it.
I thought perhaps Dr. Livesey?
What? Oh, yes, Dr. Livesey. Perfectly right. Perfectly right. A gentleman and a magistrate. Dodger,
Yes, sir.
you have a good horse. Take this lad up behind you.
Yes, sir.
We rode hard all the way till we came to Dr. Livesey's door.
Dr. Livesey, the doctor's supping tonight at the Squire's.
The squire? So there we go. Boy?
We arrived at the squire's. He rose to meet us, very stately and condescending.
Come in, gentlemen.
Good evening, Squire. Good evening, Dr. Livesey.
Good evening to you, friend Jim. What good winds brings you here?
The officer stood up straight and stiff and told his story.
Sergeant, you're a very noble fellow, and this lad, Hawkins, is a trump. I perceive. Hawkins, ring that bell. The sergeant must have some ale.
So, Jim, have you the thing they were after, have you?
Here it is, sir.
Have you heard of this Captain Flint, I suppose, Squire?
Heard of him? Heard of him, you say? He was the bloodthirstiest buccaneer that sailed. Blackbeard was a child to Flint. The Spaniards were so prodigiously afraid of him that, I tell you, sir, I was sometimes proud he was an Englishman.
What interests me is, had he money?
Money? What those villains are after but money.
That we shall soon know. What I want to know is this. Suppose I have here in my pocket some clue to where Flint buried his treasure. Will that treasure amount to much?
Amount, sir? It will amount to this. If we have the clue you talk about, I'll fit out a ship in Bristol dock and take you to Hawkins here along. And I'll have that treasure. If I search a year, sir.
Very well. Now, if Jim is agreeable, we'll open the packet. A map of an island with latitude and longitude. Writing, tall tree, spyglass shoulder, bearing a point to the north of northeast, Skeleton Island, southeast by east, 10 feet the bar silvers in the north cache.
Livesey, you'll give up this wretched practice at once. Tomorrow I start for Bristol. In 3 weeks' time, 3 weeks, 2 weeks, 10 days. We'll have the best ship, sir, and the choicest crew in England. Hawkins shall come as a cabin boy, you, Livesey, as a ship's doctor. I am Admiral.
I'll go with you, Squire. So will Jim, and he'll be a credit to the undertaking. There's only one man I'm afraid of.
Who's that? Name the dog, sir.
You, sir, for you cannot hold your tongue.
Men on a dead man's chest. Yo ho ho and a bottle of rum. Drink.
Tonight, the virtual PCT network is bringing you Orson Welles and the Mercury Theatre on the air in Robert Louis Stevenson's Treasure Island. As Jim Hawkins was telling us, we are eager to leave the Benbow Inn behind and set out for the docks in Bristol.
It was longer than the squire imagined ere we were ready for the sea. Weeks passed on. Then, one fine day, there came a letter from the squire, from Bristol.
Dear Livesey, the ship is bought and fitted. She lies at anchor ready for sea. It was the crew that delayed me till the most remarkable stroke of fortune brought me the very man that I required. I was standing on the dock when by the merest accident I fell in talk with him. He had hobbled down there that morning with a parrot on his shoulder. To get a smell of salt, he said. Out of pure pity, I engaged him on the spot to be ship's cook. Long John Silver he is called, and has lost a leg. Well, sir, I thought I only found a cook, but it was a crew I discovered. Between Silver and myself, we got together in a few days a company of the toughest old salts imaginable. I declare we could fight a frigate. Seaward ho! Hang the treasure! It's the glory of the sea that has turned my head.
On the 16th of April, the schooner Hispaniola set sail from Bristol Harbor. It was more than 19 years ago, but I can remember it as if it were yesterday.
Me and my new blue cabin boy's clothes.
19 years ago.
Leaning over the rail, waving goodbye to my mother, and doing my best not to cry. For at the last moment, it sort of hurt to leave her, and it was the first time I had been away from home. Then, a little before noon, Captain Smollett gave an order. The boatswain sounded his pipe. And the crew began to man the capstan bars. Soon the anchor was shored up. Soon it was hanging dripping at the bows. Soon the sail began to draw, and the land and the shipping to slip by on either side. The Hispaniola had begun her voyage to the Isle of Treasure. On the second day out, I made the acquaintance of our one-legged ship cook, Long John Silver.
Hey there, boy! Come in! Come on in to Long John's galley!
To tell you the truth, at the very first mention of Long John Silver in the squire's letter, I had taken a fear in my mind that this might be the very one-legged sailor that I had watched for all those months at the Benbow Inn. But one look at him was enough. I had seen Captain Bones, and Black Dog, and Blind Pew, and I knew what a buccaneer looked like. Very different from this clean and pleasant-looking sea cook. His left leg was cut off close to the hip, and under the left shoulder he carried a crutch, which he managed wonderfully, hopping around on it like a bird.
Pieces of eight! Pieces of eight! Pieces of eight!
Are you Mr. Silver, sir?
Yes, me lad. Such is me name, to be sure. And you're Hawkins, eh? Nobody more welcome than yourself, me lad, in old John's galley. Sit down, hear the news. Your first trip to sea, Hawkins?
Yes, sir.
Well, there's a lot of things you're going to learn afore this here voyage is over. What do you think, Hawkins? And if there's anything you want to know, Hawkins, you just come to old John Silver and ask him. He'll tell you.
His galley was as clean as a new pin, the dishes hanging up burnished, and his parrot in a cage in the corner.
Here's Cap'n Flint. I call me parrot Cap'n Flint. Yeah, the parrot, after the famous buccaneer. Here's Cap'n Flint predicting success to our voyage, wasn't you, Captain?
Pieces of eight!
Ha! Aye, she's a powerful old bird, is Cap'n Flint. 200 years old if she's a day. And if anybody's seen more wickedness, it must be the devil himself. She sailed with England. The great Cap'n England, the pirate. And on the old Walrus. That's Flint's old ship, and I've seen a muck with red blood and fit to sink with gold. She's been at Madagascar and Malabar and Suriname and the Providence and Portobello. To look at her, you'd think she was a baby, Hawkins, but you smelt powder, haven't you, Captain?
Stand by, go about. Ah!
And blood, eh, Captain?
Order midship, Adam, all hands. Ah!
And pieces of 8, eh, Captain?
Pieces of 8, pieces of 8, pieces of 8, pieces of 8.
At the end of the third week, we left Madeira behind us. The ship proved to be a good ship. The crew seemed capable seamen. There was only one man aboard who was not satisfied, and that was the ship's master, Captain Smollett.
I'll speak plain. I don't like it. I don't like this cruise. I don't like the men. I don't like me officers. That's a short and sweet.
But nobody paid much attention to him. Every man on board seemed well content. Double grog was served on the least excuse. There was duff on odd days, and always a barrel of apples standing broached in the waist for anyone to help himself that had a fancy.
Never knew good come of it yet. Spoil forecastle lands, make devils. That's my belief. We're not home again yet.
But good did come of that apple barrel. It was about the last day of our outward voyage. Sometime that night, or at the latest before noon of the morrow, we should sight the treasure island. Just after sundown, when all my work was over, I thought I should like an apple. I ran on deck. The watch was all forward, looking out for the island. I got into the apple barrel. Suddenly, I heard voices on deck.
How long are we gonna stand off and on?
By thunder! I want to go into that cabin, I
and the
do.
wines and that.
How long? By the powers! The last moment I can manage. That's how long. How many tall ships, think you, have I seen laid aboard? And how many brisk lads drying in the sun at Execution Dock? And for all this same hurry and hurry and hurry. He's a first-rate seaman, Captain Smollett. Sails the blessed ship for us.
We're all seamen aboard here, I think.
All forecastle hands, you mean? I know the sort you are. You're never happy till you're drunk.
Easy all Long John!
I don't know where this treasure is, do I? No more do you, says you. And here's this squire and doctor with a map and such. Well, now I mean this squire and doctor shall find the treasure for us and help us get it aboard, by the powers. After that...
After that? What do we do with them, John Silver, after that?
Well, what would you think we does with them? Put 'em ashore like maroons, or cut 'em down like that much pork? Duty is duty, mates. Wait. Wait is what I says. When the time comes, why, let her rip.
Land ho!
What's that?
What's that?
Land ho!
Land ho!
Away to the southwest of us, we saw it. Treasure Island. 10 minutes later, we were gathered in the cabin. The squire, Dr. Livesey, the captain, and myself.
Now, Hawkins, you have something to say. Speak up.
I did as I was bid. I told them the whole story of Silver's conversation. When that was done, all three, one after another, and each with a bow, drank my good health. Then the squire rose.
This Silver is a remarkable man.
Here's the way I see it. We must go on because we can't turn back. Now what I propose is that we don't wait for them to surprise us, but that we come to blows at our own time and when they least expect it. There must be some faithful hands left. Well, we must find out who they are.
Jim here can help us more than anyone. The men here are not shy with him, and Jim is a noticing lad.
Hawkins, I have prodigious faith in you.
In the meantime, talk as we pleased, there were only 7 out of 26 on whom we could rely. And of these 7, I was a boy, so that the grown men on our side were 6 to their 19. Next morning, there was not a breath of air moving, nor a sound, but that of the surf booming half a mile away along the beaches. A peculiar stagnant smell hung over the acreage. The heat was sweltering, and the men grumbled fiercely over their work. Mutiny, it was plain, hung over us like a thundercloud. Around noon, Captain Smollett came up on deck.
Me lads, we've had a hot day, and we're all tired and out of sorts. A quick turn ashore will hurt nobody, so you can take the gigs and as many as please may go ashore for the afternoon.
Aye, wait a bit, men! What's the hurry? What's the hurry?
John Silver suspected a trick. He hopped around on deck on his one leg.
What's the hurry? Wait a bit, will you, men?
Soon the party was organized. 6 fellows were to stay on board, and 13, including Silver, began to embark. Suddenly, I had a mad notion to go ashore too. In a jiffy, I had slipped over the side and curled up in the foresheets of the nearest boat. No one took notice of me. The crews raced for the beach. No sooner had we touched ashore than I leaped out and plunged into the nearest thicket. Behind me, I could hear John Silver's voice.
Hi, Jim! Jim, me boy! Hi, Jim! 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 Jim!
John Silver was quick at his work. 2 faithful members of the crew were murdered on the island that afternoon, only an hour after we'd landed. The second killing I saw with my own eyes from where I lay hidden among the trees.
Will you tell me you'll let yourself be led away with that kind of mess of swabs?
Sure as God sees me, I'd sooner lose me hand than turn again me duty.
Mate, it's because I thinks gold dust of you. Gold dust!
John Silver, you're mate of mine no more. If and I die like a dog, I'll die in me duty. You've killed Allen, have you? Kill me too if you can, but I defies you.
He started to walk away.
Try this then!
Long John whipped the crutch out of his armpit and sent it hurtling through the air. It struck him in the back and killed him. Then, Silver brought out a whistle. I didn't wait. I ran as I never ran before.
Darby McGraw!
I looked up the side of the hill.
Ooh.
Far above me, I saw something leap behind the trunk of a tree. It seemed dark and shaggy. I turned and began to run. Suddenly, the thing appeared in front of me, and running forward, threw itself on its knees before me and held out its hand clasped in supplication.
Oh.
Who are you?
I'm poor Ben Gunn, I am. I have spoken a word with a Christian these 3 years.
3 years? Were you shipwrecked?
No, mate. Marooned. 3 years. Lived on goats since then and berries and oysters, mate. My heart is sore for Christian diet. You might happen to have a piece of cheese about you now. No? Well, many's the night I've dreamed of cheese. Toasted mostly. And woke up again and here I was. What do you call yourself, mate?
Jim.
Jim? Jim. Well, now, Jim, you wouldn't think I was rich to look at me, would you now?
Why, no, not in particular.
Ah, well, but I am, Jim. I'm rich, powerful rich. Oh, Jim, you'll bless your stars, you will. You was the first that found me. Woo-hoo!
Suddenly, his eyes fell on the Hispaniola lying far below us. Between it and the land was a jolly boat, with 5 men moving toward shore, but I couldn't tell if they were our men or the mutineers.
Jim, tell me true. Ain't that Flint's ship?
It's not Flint's ship, and Flint is dead. There are some Flint's hands aboard, worse luck for the rest of us.
Not a man with one leg.
Silva?
Ooh. If you were sent by Long John, I'm as good as pork. I know it. I was in Flint's ship with Long John Silver when old Flint buried the treasure. He and 6 strong seamen, they was ashore nigh on a week. And then one day here come Flint by himself in a little boat. And the 6 all dead and buried, along with the treasure. How he done it, not a man of us could make out.
I told him of the purpose of our voyage and the predicament in which we now found ourselves.
Oh, that Long John, he's a bad one. And you're all in the Clovitch, ain't you? Well, you just put your trust in Ben Gunn. Ben Gunn's the man to help you. You tell that to your squire, Jim. Ben Gunn's the man, that's what you'll say. And Ben Gunn says you has ideas of his own. Ooh, look at that.
Far below us, we saw a Union Jack fluttering in the air above the woods.
There's your friends, sure enough.
More likely it's the mutineers.
No, mate. Silver would fly the Jolly Roger. That's your friend, sure enough. Ashore in the old stockade made years and years ago by Flint. Oh, what's that?
That's the ship's cannon. They're shooting at the stockade. Come on!
Wait a minute, Jim. Wait. Ben Gunn is fly. Rum wouldn't bring me down there. But remember, Jim, Ben Gunn's the man to help you. And when Ben Gunn is wanted, you knows where to find him. Just where you found him today.
I started to run towards the flag.
Hey, Jim. Jim?
Yes, sir?
You won't forget that piece of cheese, will you, mate?
It was less than a mile to the stockade. It was heavy running through the woods. The shooting was getting louder. Suddenly, before me, I saw a clearing, and the smoke of the muskets fired nearby. Hey there!
Who goes there?
Hey, don't shoot, it's me!
Who's me?
Me, Jim Hawkins!
It's Jim! It's Jim! Jim's back!
He's safe!
Oh, he's safe!
It's Jim!
Moments later, I was over the stockade among my friends. Soon afterwards, the firing ceased. The mutineers were saving their powder. The stockade was a good place, with a paling 6 feet high all around it. We could have held it against a regiment. And here, Captain Smollett decided to stay and await our enemy's next move. I told Dr. Livesey and the squire about Ben Gunn.
Aye! Flag a truce! Flag a truce!
Who's that?
It's Silver. Keep indoors, men. 10 to 1. This is a trick. Who goes? Stand away, fire!
Flag a truce!
Doctor's watching a lookout. Dr. Livesey, take the north side, if you please.
Yes, sir.
Jim, the east. Gray, west. The watch below, all hands to load muskets. Lively, men, and careful. What do you want with your flag of truce?
Captain Silver, sir. Come to make terms.
Captain Silver? Why, you black-hearted scoundrel!
Silence, sir, silence. If you wish to talk to me, you can come, and that's all. If there's any treachery, it'll be on your side, and the Lord help you.
That's enough, Captain. A word from you's enough. I know a gentleman, and you may lay to that.
You'd better sit down.
Eh? You ain't gonna let me inside, Captain? It's a main cold morning, to be sure, sir, to sit outside on the sand. Oh, there's Jim. Top of the morning to you, Jim. Why, there you're all together, like a happy family in a manner of speaking.
If you've anything to say, my man, better say it.
Right you were, Captain Smollett. Duty is duty, to be sure. Well, here it is. We want that treasure, and we'll have it. That's our point. You just as soon save your lives, I reckon, and that's yours. You have a chart, haven't you?
That's as maybe.
Ah, well, you have. I know that. What I mean is, we want your chart. You give us the chart to get the treasure, boy, and I'll give you my affidavit, upon my word of honor, to clap you somewhere safe ashore.
Is that all you have to say?
Every last word, by thunder. Refuse that, and you've seen the last of me but musket balls.
Very good. Now you'll hear me. If you'll come up one by one, unarmed, I'll engage to clap you all in irons and take you home to a fair trial in England. If you won't, as me name's Alexander Smollett, I've flown me sovereign colours, and I'll sue you all to Davy Jones. You can't find the treasure, you can't sail the ship, and you can't fight us. I stand here and I'll tell you so, and it's the last good word you'll get from me. Now, tramp me, lad.
Laugh, by thunder, laugh. Before the hour's out, you'll laugh on the other side. Them that die will be the lucky ones.
Ten minutes later, nothing remained of the attacking party but the 5 who had fallen, 4 on the inside and 1 on the outside of the palisade. The mutineers did not come back that night. They had got their rations, as the captain put it. The next day was stifling hot. After dinner, Dr. Livesey sent for me.
Jim, was it cheese you said Ben Gunn had a fancy for?
Yes, sir, cheese.
Well, Jim, see, the good thing that comes from being a dainty in your food, you've seen my snuff box, haven't you? And you've never seen me take the stuff. The reason being is that in my snuff box I carry a piece of Parmesan cheese. A cheese made in Italy. Very nutritious. Well, that's for Ben Gunn. Well, goodbye, lad.
Then he took up his hat and pistols, girt on his cutlass, put the chart in his pocket, and set off briskly through the trees. That afternoon, the blockhouse being stifling hot, and the little patch of sand outside the palisade ablaze with midday sun, and so much blood around me, and so many poor dead bodies lying around, a new idea came into my head. This was to swim out under cover of night, cut the Hispaniola adrift, and let her go ashore where she fancied. The mutineers, after their repulse of the morning, had nothing nearer their hearts than to up anchor and away to sea. This, I thought, would be a fine thing to prevent. It was evening when I reached the east coast of the island. I could see the Hispaniola lying at anchor offshore. And there was the Jolly Roger, the black flag of piracy, flying from her peak. As the last days of daylight dwindled and disappeared, absolute darkness settled down on Treasure Island. The next night, I was back on land. I was proud of myself, and with good reason. I had grounded the Hispaniola, beached her up tidily in the North Inlet, with no harm done, safe from the mutineers. I had no trouble finding the stockade. Coming in from the shore, keeping close in the shadows where the darkness was thickest, I crept into the blockhouse. I could see nothing. The doctor and the squire must have worried about me. I should lie down in my own place, I thought, and enjoy their faces when they found me in the morning. I felt for a place to lie down.
Pieces of me! Pieces of me! Pieces of me!
Who goes? Who goes? Bring a torch, Dick. Well, shiver me timbers. Jim Hawkins. Dropped in like, eh? Quite a pleasant surprise for poor old John. I've always liked you, I've, Jim, for a lad of spirit. A picture of me own self when I was young and handsome. Always wanted you to join my camp and take your share and die a gentleman. And now, my cock, you've got to. You can't go back to your own lot.
Where are they?
Now, where do you think, my son?
Have you killed them?
What do you think?
Well, I am not such a fool, but I know pretty well what I have to look for. But there's a thing or two I have to tell you. And the first is this. Here you are, in a bad way. Ship lost, treasure lost, men lost. And if you want to know who did it, it was I. I was in the apple barrel the night we sighted land, and I heard you, John, and you, Dick Johnson, and Hans, who's now at the bottom of the sea, and told every word you said before the hour was out. And as for the schooner, it was I who cut her cable, and it is I who brought her where you'll never see her more, not one of you. I no more fear you than I fear a fly.
I put one to that, and here goes, you sneaking son of a scrog.
And so will I.
Avast there! Who are you, Tom Morgan? Maybe you thought you was capping here, perhaps?
Tom's right. Kill the boy.
Did any of you gentlemen want to have it out with me? Him that wants it shall get it. Huh? You won't fight? Then by thunder you'll obey. You may lay to it. I like that boy now. Never seen a better boy than that. He's more a man than any pair of rats of you in this here house. What I say is this. Let me see him that'll lay a hand upon him. That's what I say, and you may lay to it. Seems you have a lot to say. Pipe up and let me hear it, or lay to.
John.
What?
We got something for you, John.
Step up, or I won't bite you. Hand it over, lover. The black spot. I thought so. What's on it? Deposed. Deposed? That's it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Very pretty wrote, to be sure. Like print, I swear. But it ain't one bit prettier wrote than this.
What's that?
And what does it look like, lads? A chart! That's what it is, a chart! A chart of this island. Old Flint's chart. Now, what do you say to that?
Yes, that's Flint. Ah, sure enough.
That's it!
JF, and a clove hitched to it, so he done ever.
Silver's the man.
That was the end of the night's business. Only, much later, I woke up suddenly and felt someone beside me.
Jim. Jim, me boy.
Yes, Long John?
I saved your life for you tonight, Jim. Now you and me stick close, Jim. Back to back, like, in case of trouble. And talking of trouble, Jim, why did those friends of yours leave that chart behind when they cleared out of here? They did, though. I came in here this morning and found the place empty, and the chart lying there on the table where I couldn't miss it. And there's something under that. Something under that, good or bad.
The next morning we set out after the treasure.
Tall tree, spyglass shoulder, bearing a pint to the north, a northeast, Skeleton Island, east, southeast, and by east, 10 east.
Hey, over there! Come quick!
At the foot of a pine, half covered with green creeper, a human skeleton lay on the ground.
A skeleton, be God.
It lay perfectly straight, the feet pointing in one direction, the hands raised above its head like a diver's, pointing directly in the opposite.
It ain't natural. It ain't natural. But you know, lads, I've a notion in my old numbskull. Now here's the compass. There's the tip-top point of Skeleton Island. Stick it out like a tooth. Just take a bearing, will ye, along the line of them bones.
East, southeast, and by east.
I thought so. It's a pointer. Right up there's our line for the Pole Star and the Jolly Dollars. Ha ha ha! This is one of Flint's jokes, and no mistake. Him and the 6 was alone here. Alone he killed 'em, every man. And this one he hauled up here and laid down by the compass. Yes, 6 they were, and 6 we are. And bones is what they are now.
I saw him dead, old Flint. There he laid with penny pieces on his eyes.
Dead, aye. Sure enough, he's dead. But if ever a spirit walked, it'd be Flint's. Dear heart, but he died bad, did Flint.
Ah, that he did.
Aye, mine hot it were. And the windy was open, and I hear that old song of his comin' out as clear as hell, and the death howl on the man already.
Listen.
15 men on a dead man's chest.
Do you hear what I hear?
Ho, ho, ho.
That's Flint, begad. Old Flint.
Oh, Lord.
They was his last words.
Darby McGraw.
Old Flint's last words above board.
Darby McGraw.
Oh, Lord.
Shipmates! Shipmates! There's 750,000 pounds, not a quarter of a mile from here. Since when did a gentleman of fortune show his stern to that much dollars for a boozy old seaman with a blue mug? And him dead, too?
Belater, John. Don't you cross a spirit.
Spirit? Well, maybe. You know whose voice that was? It was like her, somebody else's. It was like her. By the powers been gun!
Aye.
Aye!
Aye, so it were. Ben Gunn, it were.
Why, nobody minds Ben Gunn. Dead or alive, nobody minds him.
Spyglass shoulder. Bearing a point to the northeast. Skeleton Island, southeast and by east, 10 feet.
Hey, mate, here's the tall tree.
The first of the tall trees was reached, and by bearing proved the wrong one. So did the second. So the third.
Here it is. Aye, Long John, Mary, here it is.
Before us was a great excavation. In this was the shaft of a pick, broken in two, and the boards of several packing cases strewn about, all branded with the name Walrus, the name of Flint's ship. The treasure had been found and rifled. The 700,000 pounds were gone. We turned and saw above us, on the edge of the pit, Ben Gunn, Dr. Livesey, Gray, and the squire, all with muskets. The doctor's plan had worked. The pirates had fallen into a trap.
John Silver, you're a prodigious villain and an impostor, sir. But you saved this boy's life, and I'll not prosecute you. But the dead men, sir, hang about your neck like a millstone.
Thank you kindly, sir.
I dare you thank me. It's a gross dereliction of my duty. Stand back.
It took us 3 days to move the treasure from Ben Gunn's cave on board ship. On the 8th day of December, the Hispaniola reached Bristol. 5 men only of those who had sailed returned with her.
Well, that was 19 years ago. All of us had an ample share of the treasure, and used it, wisely or foolishly, according to our natures. Captain Smollett is now retired from the sea. As for Ben Gunn, he got £1,000, which he spent, or lost, in 19 days, for he was back begging on the 20th. Silver vanished on the voyage one night off the coast of Mexico, and we heard no more of him. The bar silver and the arms still lie, for all I know, where Flint buried them. And certainly they shall lie there for all of me. Oxen and wain ropes would not bring me back again to that accursed island. And the worst dreams that I ever have are when I hear the surf booming about its coast, or start upright in bed with the sharp voice of Captain Flint still ringing in my ears.
Pieces of 8.
You have been listening to Treasure Island, Stevenson's great adventure story, as adapted and performed originally for radio by Orson Welles and the Mercury Theatre. It brings Virtual PCT great pleasure to recreate and offer physically distanced entertainment in these trying times. Until we can gather again in a local theater, please be safe and well. This is the Virtual Pullman Civic Theater.